So part of the approach of lowering those hurdles is starting small, especially when you're taking a risk that feels bigger than you, right? Becoming more of what you believe yourself to be, you can see how risk is growth. And so this helps us to recognize when we're in our little shells and trying to keep safe, and you poke your head out just once in a while to see what's happening and then retreat back into the comfort, right? When we're feeling uncomfortable, things are scary, or there's a perceived threat. So, how do we start to consider even taking the risk when we are in those moments? It starts with something small, as I talked about before, the awareness of your thoughts. Recognize those old BS patterns of keeping you safe or keeping you closed, right, in that shell. And as you continue through this process of accomplishing the risk or the desire, there'll be many times when your mind might start second guessing why you started this mess in the first place, right? So remember your inspiration. Remember that you can shift your awareness. I call it shift the script and turning the worry into wonder. So instead of worrying about it, I don't know how this is going to get done. This is so overwhelming. Why did I start this in the first place? Pausing again, taking that breath, shifting your perception, shifting the energy in your body, because that's going to keep it going, right, through the nervous system. So bringing yourself back to the parasympathetic nervous system by taking that breath and remembering your inspiration of why you wanted to take the risk in the first place. Again, this brings it into trusting yourself and your abilities. And that's where you find the safety within yourself, right? Trust and safety. And here is where the reward outweighs the risk. And the reward isn't even at the end, it's in the process as you're witnessing yourself growing, developing, learning more about yourself, building that relationship to you. And once you get used to taking those small risks and learning from the experience, you can see how your mind is the biggest obstacle, right? It likes to cast shadows of fear and uncertainty upon your walls of desire. And you'll see how you can just shift it again, right? Become curious of when another opportunity arises, that growth asking you to take the risk and keep living with intention. Here's where the growth enhances and develops, and it's through your own curiosity, letting go of your own judgments and those cycles of thoughts, that BS about yourself, others, and situations. You really bring it back to you, right? You're focusing on you and why you're wanting your inspiration, right, of taking these risks. And throughout my life, I've taken a lot of risks. And I think this is another reason why I wanted to have this series, is because I think I'm a pretty good candidate or a teacher or a guide of saying, hey, risks do equal growth, because I lived overseas in Japan for a total of 10 years, a foreign country that I wasn't familiar with. I couldn't even speak the language, although I was still able to be successful and work for a Japanese company teaching English, right? And then also starting my own business, leaving my 9-to-5 job. That's huge risk, trusting in myself and the process, because it was wanting me to become more. And I trusted that there was more in life that I could see at that moment. Remember, the mind likes to see black and white, likes to compare where you're at right now. And when you're wanting this over here, there's just so much risk involved, right? Getting to the other side. So I wouldn't be here today if I didn't risk, right, and rise to the challenge and risk failure of being a podcaster, having my own business. And another huge risk, we sold our home and now we're full-time RVers. That was a really big risk, but the benefits outweighed the cost or the risk involved. So you might say, yeah, April, that's great. Good for you. I'm bringing this up because it's all about your awareness, shifting that script of those thoughts, and building trust for yourself. Risk helps expand past the BS. And with each step, right, like me running towards that hurdle and knowing that I'm looking past it, right, there is growth. There's knowledge and insights gained from the experiences. So much wealth of information. We're not meant to stay in our little one shell, right? We're meant to develop and grow and evolve numerous shells in our lives. So what if you wanted to do, but afraid of risking failure? What is that for you? And my hopes for you is listening to this and start your own path towards your desire. It involves putting yourself out there, and you might feel vulnerable and uncomfortable, but this is what growth is. It's that continuum through life. And I think a lot of us forget that. We're meant to grow and continue to evolve. I said that before, but it's so important to hear that. There's always room for more. And just being open and seeing risks as opportunities will help you clear those hurdles. But you got to start with that momentum. Okay, wanting more, putting your wants and desires into motion, one step at a time, especially if you feel that there's a lot of risk involved. So start small, ease yourself into it. Because if you start something at a full run, like I did that first attempt on that hurdle, most likely your experience won't turn out as well, right? You might experience burnout or overwhelm and start to question why you even started in the first place. And then the mind will tell you all the things, and you'll feel that the cost outweighs the benefits of the risk or growth involved. So that small allows you to acclimate, right? Taking those small steps, being aware, taking those breaths, right? And within that process, it'll feel less risky because the smallness of it makes it feel achievable for the growth, for the risk, for your desire. So it starts with inspiration. Make a plan. Get it out of your head. Write it down. Right? Remember your motivation. Remember your inspiration of why. Initiate by taking those small steps. And in the middle of the process, again, if any challenges arise with your own mental processes or things out of your control, right, redirect and reflect, learning from the experience. And really celebrate those small progresses, right? That helps to reignite your inspiration. And as you go through this process, you can wash or reset and repeat with each step. So I'm putting in a link for a worksheet that I just described, those small steps there, so that way you can work through that on your own accord. And I just want to remind you, when we approach a risk with an open mind and remembering that this is growth, right? Then risk builds resiliency to the uncertainty, to assumptions about yourself, the situations, or others. And this process will help alleviate any ambiguity that you might be holding, right? This helps to set you up to clear those hurdles of risks with more ease. And the mind cannot predict how things will unfold anyway, right? When there's any detection of threat, that mind will generously provide ample reasons to keep you safe and not take the chance of risking failure or injury. So, is it really better to be safe, stay in your shell, than be sorry? So I want to leave you with this poem that I've adjusted just a little bit. And the poem is from William Arthur Ward. And he says, "To laugh is to risk appearing a fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental. To reach out to another is to risk involvement. To expose feelings is to risk exposing your true self. To place your ideas and dreams before a crowd is to risk their loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To hope is to risk despair. To try is to risk failure. But risk must be taken, because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing does nothing to expand in life, loses out on valuable experiences. He may avoid suffering and sorrow, but he cannot learn, feel, change, grow, or live. Chained by his servitude, he is a slave who has forfeited all freedom. Only a person who risks is free." Well, I appreciate your dedication to yourself. And I hope that you keep growing, risking, and expanding. If you haven't had a chance to tune into the Less is More or Wanting More in 2024 episodes, please check those out. I hope you find inspiration in clearing those hurdles. Please reach out to me, hit like, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about this. Risk equals growth. I'd love to hear what you've been doing to take risks and to, savor those growing moments. Until next time, be well.